All right, hey again. So we're gonna continue pretty much where we left off. We're just gonna be adding the comments to our view today. So let me just get right to it, and I'll share my screen. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so pretty much what we're gonna start off with. I'm gonna show you where we left off first. So I'll open my simulator. I see pretty much the same app. We have the photo screen here, and we have the user screen here. So last time we were kind of working on each inside the user detail view. So pretty much this screen where we could switch between seeing all the posts, and we could switch between seeing the about section where we could see the address and the company. So now what we want to do is make it that once the user is able to see all their posts, they can actually click on a post and see the rest of their comments. So to do that, we're going to have to use another API, and that's going to be basically we're going to, for each of these comments or each of these posts right here, we're going to use the post ID to get the comments that match with it. So to do that, let's just open up JSON placeholder. One sec. Yeah. Let's open up JSON placeholder, and that's JSONPlaceholder.typico.com, and just scroll down here. And like we do have the comments mentioned here, and it's going to be 500 comments. But if we use this, it's just going to give us all the comments for each different post ID. So post ID 1, post ID 3, post ID 2. And that's not what we want. We want to be able to get the comments based on the post ID. So if we scroll down even a bit further, and this is at roots, we'll see that we have this where it's like it's a get call, and it's pretty much takes post 1 and comments. And if we use that, we'll see this is how we can get pretty much the comments for each post based on the post ID. So for here, you can see we're getting it for 1. And these are all the comments linked to him. And you can tell it's from different people based on, well, the email and maybe even the name. Yeah. Right here too. All right, cool. So just to check this out, let's just change the 1 here to like a 2. And we should now see the post ID for all the 2 people. All the comments linked to all the post IDs with 2. All right, so 2 here, etc. All right, so we can just copy this endpoint. And we're going to just minimize this and jump back to Xcode. And again, we're really going to be inside our user detail view model. The good thing, though, is that we already have a API service in here already. We have this dependency, which we got from the parent view. We did that in the previous stream, so if you want to just check that out. But all right, so first off, we have the endpoint. So let's just update our endpoints enum that we have here. And this endpoint enum is pretty much how we're managing all the API endpoints that we're using. So we have one for photos, users, post by user. And then this resource is pretty much just providing the modified string or just the regular string for like each endpoint. So now we're going to add one more, and this is going to be for comments by post ID. And let's have it taking that string. And then we're just going to update our resourcer, and we're going to include this case now. So let's call this post ID. Let's just do this because like the actual parameter is using this. Actually, no. I'm going to go with the regular D, big D. All right, so return, and I'll do that. Now, instead of doing 2 here, I want to do it based on the post ID. So I'll swap that out. Similar to how we did for user ID, passing in the different user ID to fetch the post based on that user. So we'll say this, that, okay. And, we can stop this for now. No, only thing we've done really is just updating, giving us the option to actually use this endpoint. So what we need to do is actually update it also in our services. So let me see if zoom in a bit so you can see that better. So if I scroll up here, you see that we have a protocol called API services, and this is where we're kind of managing all our functions. Handle this in a previous stream, so just check them out. So we're going to have to add one more now, and this is going to be func for fetching comments by post ID. Post ID. Okay, and it's just passing that endpoint parameter. Since we updated it already, we know we'll have access to it. And again, we're using Swift concurrency, so we're going to do async throws. Okay, and then return an array of comments, which we haven't made yet. So we're just going to pause this for 1 second. And right now we want to return an array of comments, but we haven't made that model yet. So to do that, we have to just jump to our models folder and let's go to models. I'm going to start the same way like how we did for the previous models. So photo model, user model, and then user models, nested models. So we'll start by saying struct. I'll say comment. And we have to make it decodable so that we can, whenever we get it from the API as data, we can convert it to the type that we want, which is probably going to be an array of comments. And then because we're going to more than likely we are going to use this inside a SwiftUI view and probably going to use it inside a list, we have to make it identifiable. Let's go here. And then you're going to see this complaining about that basically identifiable as a requirement that you have to have a parameter called ID. So I think the actual API has a parameter for this. So let's just wait 1 sec. Okay, let's copy this so that we don't have to go back and forth. So let's just copy this portion here. And then we'll just temporarily put it there and comment this out. Okay, and then we already have, so it requires a parameter, which is an ID. So we don't have to create our own. So let's just say ID. I'll make this an int. And then we can do post ID. It doesn't really matter if it's in a different order, as long as you have the parameters that you want to get from the API. And then you will convert it or decode it to the types we want, if you can. So let email be string, and let body equals string, be of type string. So now we can get rid of this. We don't really need this anymore. And we can jump back to our services now. Let's maximize this. And we just uncomment the function we were writing earlier. Let's just undo. Yeah. So now we have a model type that we want to return. So the first thing is that the class that we're using to conform to this protocol is complaining because, well, we have to add the function. So let's add the function. I'm not sure why all this puts at the top, but let's just move this. And then we'll scroll down here, give this some extra space. Okay. And then we'll say, pretty much just paste it down here. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, now, so what we have to do now is use Swift concurrency using async await to pretty much fetch the data from the API and then decode it to the model that we have, the array of comments. So we did this pretty much in our previous steps. So I'm going to kind of run through this pretty fast. So I'll say guard with URL. And then for this, we have to use a URL. It's going to take the string, and because our endpoint enum provides a string, we can say endpoint.resource. And then we'll say else. And then we'll throw an error if this doesn't work. And so, yeah, so we'll throw an error here and say API service error dot invalid URL. Let's see. Yeah, invalid URL. And then we'll say, once we have the URL, we'll just use this to actually make the API call using URL session. But that can throw an error, so let's drop that in a do catch. And then for now, let's just add in the regular error that we usually show. So API service error, .custom, the error, .localized description. And now inside our do block, which would basically, if everything goes well, would be our success place. We're just gonna say let response no, data response. Yeah, response. And this is because our try, await, when we use URL session as in an async way, it returns a tuple that it will have a type of a data and then whatever the response is. So we're just going to pass in our URL. And now the next thing we need to do is pretty much do what we usually do, is check if the response is correct, if it's a 200. So we did this before, so I'm just going to copy and paste this here. Here, yeah. And we're seeing this error because, well, we're saying that the function requires us to return an array of comments or throw error. And in the catch block, we're handling that throwing the error, but we're not handling it right now. So we're just not there in the code yet. So I'm just going to put an empty, make it return an empty array for now, just to dismiss that error. So now what we're going to do is in here, we're going to say, so let me see. So we're going to actually now decode the data. So to do that, we're going to say let comments equal JSON decoder dot decode, and we're going to say an array of comments, and we're going to set that to dot self, and then use data here. All right, and then just mark that with a try. And now what this is going to do is basically decode that data, basically transforming it into an array of comments. So I'll just say comments here, copy that, and just paste that right there. Okay. I know. So basically now we've successfully updated our service class to actually have a function to actually fetch comments by the post ID. So to do this now, to actually use this, I know what we want to do is actually use this. But first, let's see if we can just test it to see if it's actually working. All right, so let's jump to our user detail view. And we know, let's run this again. Let's see. Let me just load up this preview for 1 second. It might take some time to load up, so let me just minimize this section. If not, I'm just going to run it. Yeah, I think I might as well just run it. So I'm just going to run it. And while that loads up, okay, good. Those succeeded. All right, so we're going to go to the user screen, and when we click on a user, basically inside this screen, we want to make it that whenever we click on a post, we get navigated to a different screen that shows all the comments. So to do that, let's jump to our post view. Since this list of pretty much elements, this list is pretty much the post view screen itself, just under here. And luckily we have access to the view model already. So what we want to do now is we're going to have to basically wrap our post row view in, say, a navigation link. And then whenever it's tapped, we could basically push to another screen, and we'll pass the post ID to that screen. So let's see if we can do that. We're going to have to make a comments view model then, but let's see if we can do that. So let me actually show that tool in the UI. So yeah, so this is the post view screen. We're going to make it that whenever we tap on a row here, which is this section of code here, by wrapping it in the navigation link, we get sent to a different screen and passing along the post ID. I made the fetch request for the data in that screen. All right, so since this is the post screen, let's see if we can just load the preview here. I don't want to have this each row view just be open like this. So I'm actually going to make a post row view. And then just wrap it in the navigation link real quick. So I'll just copy this. I'm going to do this pretty fast. So we're going to jump over here. And And then I'll make a new folder just because it's getting kind of hard to find stuff. It's post row view. And let's make a new SwiftUI file. I'm gonna just call it post row view. And then we'll replace this. And then it's gonna complain because it requires a post. So let's just update its thing to include a post. Made it a post. And then our preview is also gonna require a post. So we'll just open that up. And I think we're using a post inside. Yeah, we might not have an open post right now. Okay, so let's just fill out one. And just give it the ID 1. And for the title, let's just say 1. And then for that, hey, I'm here. Just reading some text. Cool. All right, so basically updated. So that's how it's gonna look. So let's just move this. Let's start using this post row view inside our post view. So let's go here. And actually, let's just put this inside a folder. New folder from selection, post view. And then let's just throw the post row view inside there too. All right, so now we're gonna get rid of this. And we're just gonna say post row view. And we're just gonna drop post right in there. Nice. Cool. Not sure why this isn't showing, but I know this is working. So what we're gonna do now is wrap this in a navigation link. So we'll just do navigation link. And we want the one that takes a label and a destination. And then for the label, which is gonna be each row, we're gonna paste that there. And then for now, let's just put this text here and then we're just gonna run it just to make sure that we can navigate to like some screen that just says comment on it. Okay. Let's see. So we'll click on the row. Okay, so we can do that. Perfect. So we can push to a different screen. So now let's see if we can push, send over the data that we need, build out the comment screen, and then push that data over to it. So to do that, first thing, because we're using MVVM and we're going to be using the API, we're going to pass, we're going to have to give comment screen a view model and then call the API from there. So we're going to make a different screen section in here. So let's put about form view in its own section too. So new folder from folder. Let's say form view. Nice. And then we're going to make one separate folder now. And this is going to be for new folder. And this is going to be for comments. Nice. Okay, yeah, let's leave comments by itself. And then we'll make both a SwiftUI file. So let's just call this comments, this view. And then let's just make the view model from now. So go to a Swift file, not a SwiftUI file. And then we'll say comments, list, view model. View model. And then just click create. And let's just build this out really quick. So comments, list view model. We know we have to make it an observable object from our previous streams. And we also know that we're going to need a property to handle all the comments that we're going to get when we get call the API call to get it. So let's just make this an array of comment. And we can just set this to empty. And we also know that we're going to need a service so that we can connect to it. So we'll create one right there. And we're going to use a protocol. Again, we pretty much did most of this in the previous stream, so I'm kind of just speed fasting through it. If you want to just I'd say refresh from the previous streams, or I'm kind of taking more time to like go through each thing. So API services, info. I was just giving that a default value. But if you're keeping up with the pace, yeah, then just stay. Yeah, so the next thing is let's build out the comments list view a bit. So let's actually introduce it to our observable object by giving it a state object of var view model. And then we could actually initialize this. No, that's not. All right, so let's just do comments with this view model. And then we can get rid of some of this and just say vstack. And let's add something like, let's just add some text to the screen. And let's just call this some text. And then our preview is gonna complain again. We can jump there. And now we have a basic view for our comments list view. So let's just see if this view is the basic view is at least just showing. So let's just jump back to our profile list view. Where is that? Post view. Oh yeah, post view. Sorry, not profile. Post view. And let's just maximize this. Hold on. Ooh, yeah. All right. Now for the main thing, we want to do is go comments list view model. This view, sorry. And then for the view model, right now what we're gonna do is take in that service. So actually, I think that was a mistake. So instead of making it that we can initialize from comments list view model, let's not do that. I want to make it that we have to pass down this instance instead of just keep making multiple different instances in the code. So let's remove that initialization. So that's what I did here. I removed that. So for using this, we have to initialize it. So, but in this case, since we know our observed object here, our parent class already has it. So let's just pass it on. So view model services, and that should be fine. Now, if we run this, oh, actually, there might be one error, and I think it's going to be in a preview. So let's see where this is. Yeah, it's inside this preview. So because I removed the requirement for the option for it to have have a default value, it's now saying that it's required, but it's just for the preview. So yeah. Okay. All right. And now let's just go to where our posts are. I know if you tap this, we see that we do get sent to a different screen, get sent to our comments list view screen. And if we go back, we see it for each time. All right, nice. All right, so now let's build out some of this view. And it's gonna be pretty simple. I think I'm gonna go with a different style of list though. So we'll go with something similar to, so say list, and we know we're gonna need our view model. Actually, let's wait. Before we do this, let's jump back to our comments list view model. And let's set up our function to get data from the API. So we'll call this fetch comments. And then this is where we'll say, we'll just wrap this in a do catch. And we'll say self. No, we don't even have to say self. We can just say comments is equal to try await service dot fetch comments my post ID, and we'll use a new enum that we added, which takes in a post ID and creates that type of string URL. Let me just for a refresher, let me just jump in here. So when we pass in our post ID there, it's going to create a new URL called this, except for in this portion here, it will be the actual post ID. All right. So right now we don't have access to that, but right now Xcode is complaining about the fact that this is an async function, and we're basically trying to use it in a function that isn't async. So to fix that, like we did in previous streams, just mark this with an async. All right. So now the next thing that we need to do is be able to get the post ID for the post that we selected. So right now, there's no way our list view model has access to that. But when our list view model is initialized, we could just pass the post ID from there. All right, so let's jump back to our screen here. No, let's see, our post view. I keep not seeing it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay, yeah. No. Just had it. Oh yeah, here. Yeah, so let's jump back to our post view. And we can minimize this and open this up, makes this bigger. Okay. And then in our comments list view, we're gonna pretty much pass the ID for this post into it. We could pass the entire post, but my thing is if we don't need the entire model, let's just not do it. So let's say let post, let's add a new property and let's say let post ID and it's a string. Now I feel like I just want services to be at the back right there. So I'll just do post ID here. Update our initializer. Self.post ID equal post ID. And this is going to cause some errors in a couple previews, but we'll handle that later. So adding the post ID to our enum to create that URL. And this will pretty much call that. We're gonna, for now, just print an error. And what we can do now is actually just test this just to see if this is actually working. So we're gonna jump to our comments list view. Now that we have the function in our view model to actually make the API call, we're gonna jump to our comments list view. And of course, the preview is complaining. So let's just add something in here, 1, 2, 3. And on our view stack, we're gonna add a task modifier like we did in the previous stream and just say await view model dot fetch comments. And for a quick testing like we did before, we're gonna use dump comments. And if you're new to dump is a way how you can print to the console, but in like a more readable way. So we'll set a breakpoint there and let's just run and minimize this so we can see the simulator on the side. Oh yeah, this must be a preview. Oh no, I forgot to pass in the post ID. So let's hit fix and say post. I think this is an integer. Yes, it is. So let's cut that. Let's do string. Paste that there and let's run it now. All right, let's hit users, and now if we click on a post, our breakpoint is hit and we get some data. So all right, so there's a couple things happening here. We're seeing an error where a threading error, but let's just pause on that for now and let's just see if we can see the data. So right now we are able to see the data for each comment. You can see that it's decoded and it matches pretty much our model. So name, email, body, etc. So we know we can use this. So we don't really need dump anymore. And now we can cancel that and then minimize, remove that breakpoint, remove that. And now we're gonna handle that threading error. So it says publishing changes from background thread is not allowed. Make sure to publish values from the main thread. So it's saying that because this is an async function, like we mentioned before in the previous streams, it's an async function, but we're using it to update some UI, which is showing the comments in the screen. So to fix this, all we have to do is pretty much just add a main actor. And if we run this again, we won't have this issue. So let's jump here, do that, hit a post. And as you see, we don't have any more threading warnings popping up. So I can stop that for now. And now we'll just work on pretty much seeing if we can just build some quick UI to show the comments list view. So let's jump here, and we're just gonna go with go to list, and we'll just say list. The value that we're gonna pass here is gonna be view model.comments, and then we'll have access to each comment, and then we'll say in. And then in our VStack, let's create a VStack for this. Just temporarily, you already know we're going to move this to its own view. So we could say comment dot name here, and let's add something like, let's see if we can have the preview load while I do this so we can get some visual. Email, and I feel like I'm going to want this to be, say, something like font headline. And then for this, for the email, I kind of want it smaller. So I do like font. Let's just do caption. And let's just make it change the foreground style and make it secondary. Nice. All right, so next thing we're going to do now is we also have, so the name, the email, and then there's also let's add some space here. I think there's a body, right? So it's comment dot, I don't know why it's not showing there. Might be Xcode bug. Okay, I did have that parameter. All right, so say it. Oh yeah, because I'm not actually. Okay, I was actually using a right post ID. So now we can see it in the preview. So the first thing I'm noticing, I kind of want to make it that the what is this? The name. Is this the name? Yeah, the name pretty much be capitalized. So let's see if we can change it. Nice. And our text right here is kind of okay. Let's see how it would look in a text editor though. So let's see how the body would look in a text editor. So we'll do constant, and then we'll just do comment the body, and we can do this. Not that different. Nothing too major. I'll just go back with regular text. All right. Yeah. I feel like I'm still gonna align. I'm gonna align it to the left though. I just have a thing. I just prefer when things are just aligned to the left, I guess. And I'm going to change the type of list that we're using. We use this type of list on the last previous one. So let's change this to list style. That plain. Yeah, that's fine. And then right below the comments, let's add some padding. There's some bottom padding. And we'll just say 5. Okay. All right, cool. So now let's see how this actually looks inside the actual app when it's running. So let's do that, minimize that, and run again. Click on a user. We see all the posts that they've made. We can click on it and we can see all their comments. Yeah. Okay. Nice. All right. So what else could we do? So the next thing that we can do now is let's pause. So again, we don't want to leave this view right here just open like this. So we can create another view using it. So this will be our comment row view. So let's just create that folder, new folder, comment row view. I miss when they had just groups instead of folders, but they added it. Doesn't seem like, look like I really wanted to get rid of it, so yeah. And then we'll say comment row view, use a SwiftUI view type here, and then call it comment row view. Replace the text over here. And then we know what it's going to need. It's going to need a comment. So let's add that comment right there. This is going to complain. Sometimes these requirements make me just kind of want to not use a preview, but yeah. All right, so let's say and then for body, we'll just say, all right. So now we basically have this. So let's jump back to where we're using that comment, which is in comment list view. And we're just going to call this comment row view. I'm going to accept the comment. It's going to be the same exact looking thing, just that our view is now using another view, another reusable view for this. So let's run. All right, and then we'll go to users, tap on a user, hit it, and yeah, we still see what pretty much we were expecting. So we've always been tapping on the first one. So let's just try someone else like this. Okay. Nice. Okay. Okay. So what else we can do now is we can make it that whenever we go to the screen, and we did it before, but we'll just do it. So this time we'll just do it pretty quick. We're going to make it that we can show a spinner here. So to do that, we're going to jump to our comments list view model. And we're going to add a @published var is loading. I'm going to say bool equal to false. And whenever this gets called, we'll just say is loading is equal to true. And then we'll add a differ, which is basically going to make it that we call set is loading back to false after we exit this function. Now, all we have to do is go inside our comments list view again, and we're going to add an overlay. And then in here, we'll say if view model. Let's get rid of this and let's maximize Xcode. I'm going to say if view model dot comments that is empty is, oh no, if view model that is loading, is loading, then we show progress view. Nice. Okay. So now we just added the progress view. We know this is working. We did this many times. So just to test it though, it's gonna be really fast because JSONPlaceHolder API pretty much returns in really fast, couple seconds. So you'll have to look at it real quick. So when I go here, you're gonna see it flash. Oh, that was way too fast. So let me try a different one. Yeah, a bit too fast. But really, what we could do is try to see if we can wrap. So say when we are inside, let's see if we can slow down before we set this back to true, to false. So let's say something like dispatch queue dot main dot async after. I think this might work. And let's just do no. Oh, it might complain because this is a, let's see though. So let's say +2, and then we can get rid of this. Yeah, it might complain because we're inside an asynchronous function. Let's see. And then after 2 seconds, oh, I know I'm supposed to make this optional. So I'll be like week self in, and let's just make this week. And then let's rerun. And now what we want to see is that if you should be able to see the comments still, but we're going to pause on changing is loading to false. That way it will take some time before the spinner disappears. So let's hit that. And okay, it is showing. Let's add a longer time to 20. And I feel like it's hard to just see in light white mode. So let's change this. And then we're going to click on the user. And then when we click on the post, we're going to see the spinner. So it's here, it's just really faint. But what I can do is add some additional view, like to make it more visible. So we'll jump to comments list view. And then instead of just doing a regular progress view, we can use the one that requires a label. So we can say label, or we can make this a V stack. Or we could say text, fetching comments. Could make this bold too. And make it a font type of title, or title too. And we could, yeah, let's just see what this looks like. It's still kind of hard to see, so I think we need to add, let's add a background to this. So background, let's just set it to color to, for now, oh, this looks gray. And I feel like I'm gonna want some corner radius on this. So let's run again. Okay, so we see that spinner right there. And I've set it to 20 seconds, so it's going to be on the screen for a while. So until it disappears, what I want to do is add some padding around this. I definitely feel like this needs some padding. But I'm only going to do 5. And okay, so after 20 seconds, you see that spinner disappears. So now we can just get rid of that async wait in here. So let's just undo. I'm just going to undo. Yeah, nice. So now we have a spinner that tells the user basically we're fetching some data, so they're not just there in limbo. Next thing now we're going to do is make it that we can handle our errors. Okay, so scroll up here, and we're going to make two more properties. So we're going to have, similar to what we did before in the previous stream, we're going to have a published variable, and it's going to say show error alert. We're going to set this to false. We're going to have another one, and we're going to say published variable, and this is going to be error message. Okay, and how this is going to work is we're going to convert the error that we got for a custom error. Because remember, the catch block will always just return some type of error, and it's not an error that I created. It's just a variable that's available to us. So like this variable I'm typing now, never made it, but I know because my error type that we made in services, say jumping here, that we made in services here, this enum, it conforms to error. So I know that I can cast their error to my type of error. So I can use my type of custom error alert. error messages. So I'll say API error. And then for here, I'll say error message. And then I'll set this. So this is the error message. This error message is the error message property that we just added to our view model. So I'll say error message equal custom error. And if this is too fast, I definitely recommend you check out the other streams. I took more time going through it right in those. So yeah, so show error alert, and then we'll just toggle it like we did before. So now let's jump to comments list view. And now what we're going to do is add an alert modifier. So we'll say dot alert and view, make it use the view model show error alert. And for this, we're just going to say alert title text view model error message. And now we just set up the way how we can actually show our alerts. Now to just force it to making that the API fails, we can just go over to, actually not even there, just go over to endpoints, and let's just change our endpoint to a wrong and just delete some parts of the endpoint, and let's see what we get. So when we go here, we see we get an error, something went wrong, the operation couldn't be completed. Nice. All right, so now we're seeing error alerts if, like, say we have some API issue, something's wrong with the URL or any issue like that. So pretty much this is just a quick way how to just test it. You can just change the URL affecting it somehow and see if it, you should be able to see some type of error. Okay, so this is a different one, and it's providing us some more detailed information. And so you see something went wrong. And if we jump to our services here and go to our custom error message, we'll see that we have something that says something went wrong, and put up the something went wrong, and then Apple's error message right there. So let's jump back to endpoints and fix this, bring it back to normal. And then run it one more time just to make sure we didn't miss anything. Now everything should be working as expected. So let's see. So when we go here and we hit here and we're inside pretty much, and we can see each post, and we click on a post, now we can still see all the comments for that user, for that link to that post. So these are the comments. I feel like, you know what, let's add a title here, so that, because like right now I'm in the comment screen, but it's like I'm not completely aware of like where I am. So let's add a comments title here. So to do that, let's stop this for a second and we'll reopen this. And then in our comments list view, pretty much this right here, we're gonna minimize that and scroll up. And now we will be inside our comments list view, and we're gonna add a navigation title modifier. So again, a modifier is just a way how you can basically add an extra feature to your view. So in this case, the extra feature you want to add it to is our VStack. So a modifier, let's just add a quick one. So navigation title, text. All right, here I'm going to make it comment. And then if I minimize this and run again, we see that screen, but that's not what we're exactly checking for. And we go over to each user, and if we click on a post, yeah, we see the updated comments title. So that's kind of pretty much working how you'd want that. Let me just look through the UI again, and we have this feature. Nice. So again, just a refresher. So we use a JSONPlaceHolder API, and that's pretty much the API that we have that you can check out. It's pretty much for free. And it's called, if you go back, let me just go back. It's called JSONPlaceHolder.typicode.com. And we touched a couple of endpoints. So this endpoint was pretty much our users endpoint, and then no, sorry, that was actually our photos endpoint. And then we have another screen that uses our users, which is this endpoint right here. And we use that data to be able to show the data, the info for each user, and also show the post that each user made. You feel me? So that's pretty good. So one other thing that this JSON placeholder API offers, and I'll put this in the comment so you can check it out, is that basically you can also get to-dos. So there's a way how we can get the to-dos, like the goals that each user has. So what I'm thinking is we could also add an extra tab here and just call this to-dos, and we could use the API to show a list of the to-dos that we have. So we're going to, instead of just having 2 segments, we're going to add one more. So let's stop this for a second. And we're going to jump to user detail view again, which is, hold on, user detail view is this screen right here. So all of this is user detail view. Let me just minimize our console here. And the picker that you're seeing, that we see right here, is created by this picker here. You gotta love SwiftUI. Like it basically just read like how you'd expect. So I wanted a picker, I could just put a picker there. Anyways, so we have to add, and the next thing is that we have to add another segment here, and this is going to be post, about, and then to-dos. So to do that, since our picker is using a enum to determine the amount of like pickers that we have, let's just jump inside user detail section. Let's just maximize this for now. And then we're going to add one more section, and we're going to call this to-dos. And now it's going to complain that we have to update our title. So we'll say case.to-dos. Make this return. And this is going to be the title that we want to show on the picker. So I'll just say to-dos. Should I do it like this? Should I do it like this? I'm going to do this. Yeah. All right. So, or maybe I should do this. Yeah, I like that. All right. So we're going to jump back here. And just by updating pretty much our enum right there, and that's like, yo, well, you have to love enums. If I restart this preview, I have to add one more case, 1 second. Because what we're doing now is whenever the picker is changed, we're monitoring it in our view model by this property that we have called user detail sections. And that's basically a property that matches each case in our picker. So since we added the to-dos case, we have to update where we're using these cases too. So we had a case for post, and we showed the post view. Let me just pull up this. Let me just minimize this first, and then I'll pull this up. Yeah. All right. So since in our screen right here, this is our post view. So this is pretty much the screen right here. And then we have an about section. So our about section, about form view, is just this screen right here. We added a to-do section, so we got to create that. So we'll say case to-dos. And for now, let's just add some text, but we're going to actually build out this view in a sec. Let's just run this just to see what this looks like. Click that, and then in our to-dos, it actually pulled down everything. So actually, let's give the to-do some more stuff so that it's not just blank. So before we do that, let's see if we can jump back to our user detail view, which we already are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start by adding just a quick view stack in here instead. Text, and I'm going to add by that to do. Nice. All right, so let me get rid of this. And now what I'm thinking is I want to be able to at least touch the API so I can see what that data is looking like. So we're going to pause this just for a second and just look at the response again so we can see maybe how we want to model our to-do. So, all right. And where are you? Oh, yeah. So inside our to-do, so this is our to-do endpoint. Let's just grab this from now. And even though this is our to-do endpoint, we want to make sure that we can get the to-dos for a specific user. So to do that, because if I should just use this endpoint just like this, I would pretty much get the to-dos for every user. As you see, there are some users with like user ID 2. Don't want those. We just want it for our person. So to do this, we would have to jump to our guide. And let's just scroll down a bit. Nice. And now you see we have a endpoint that we can hit, and it basically is a user's one. It takes the user's ID and then it's marked with to-dos. So here, and this again, this is just a JSON placeholder that type of code, completely free. So we can copy this endpoint here, and the one that they have here, if you look, it's matching to the user ID. So if I scroll down, you'll notice that we don't see any other user IDs of any number. And if I should change this real quick to 3 or 2 or whatever, you see that it changes where we can see only user IDs that match 3. So this is exactly what we want. So let's copy this. And then we're going to jump to our end. Let's maximize this again. And then we're going to jump to our endpoints. And now we have to update our endpoints to actually handle for to-dos. So in the previous streams, you can check them out on the page. We handled for each of these cases, so photos, users, posts by users, and comments by post ID. So now let's add one more, and this will be for to-dos. And for we need to pass in a user ID to make sure that we can get the correct to-dos for that user. So add an associated value of a string. And again, for our resource, we're gonna have to update that to use it. So we'll say to-dos, and this will be a user ID. As you see here, I'm using some that are capital D and some that are common. So I'll change that here and just make everybody capital. I don't know. I usually just use if it's ID I'm typing, I just prefer to use just capital ID, but sometimes I'm just, but I definitely prefer capitals. So I'll press paste the URL there, and then I'll swap out the 3 that we have here that represents the ID that we can use to fetch the data with some user ID that we want to pass in. Nice. So what we can do now, so our endpoint now has the option to also fetch to-dos. So what we just did earlier was just making it that we could fetch comments by post ID. Now we can fetch the to-dos by user's ID. So inside services now, we are going to have to, and this is where we make all our API calls. So again, you see we have our API protocol. In our protocol API services, we have a function for fetching photos, users, posts by user ID, and comments. Now we're going to basically need a function for fetching to-dos based on the user ID. So we can start by just saying, say, func fetch to-dos to-do by user ID, and let's just make this take an endpoint, have it be async throws, and we wanted to return some an array of to-dos, but we haven't made that model yet. So we're going to pause this just for 1 second, and then we're going to jump over to models. And as we saw before, we have a struct, we have a model for photo, a model for user, and a bunch of other nested models that required. So user address, all of those. So now we're going to add a model for to-dos. So I'll just say struct to-do. And then, as you know, if we're going to be getting this from the API, so we have to decode it. So we got to add on the decodable protocol. And because we're going to using it in a SwiftUI view in a list, we have to make it identifiable. We saw this a bunch of times in the previous stream, so that's why I'm kind of running through it. So if we, identifiable requires that we have a property called ID, but I think the actual API is going to make us have to add ID anyway. So let me just see by jumping back to the response. I'm just going to copy one of these. And then this is going to be what I use as like my reference. So I don't have to keep going back and forth. I'll paste. What is this? Why did I not copy it? So I'm going to jump back to here. I copied it. Let's actually say copy. And then I'll go over to Xcode again. I will paste. Okay. And I'm going to comment it out. I just want it here just so I can see what each property is. So I can just do that. So user ID. Oh, and this is an int. And then let ID. And this is also an int. Let title, which is a string. And then we can do let completed and make this a boolean, whatever. I know we don't really need this anymore, so we can just get rid of that. So now we're going to jump back to services, and then basically we can continue with doing this. So we'll uncomment that. And now we know the type of array that we want to return, which is going to be a to-do. All right. And then because we updated our protocol up here, we have to update the class that conforms to it. And the reason we're doing it like that instead of just having all these functions just implemented in the class and not relying on the protocol is because we want to be able to write unit tests for it. So we wrote a couple before. Started them in the previous stream, so just take a look at those. I think it's 1 and 2. So you can take a check those out. But let's just add the new updated function that we require. So I'll say func fetch to-dos. And the first thing we have to do is convert our string to which is our endpoint to a URL. So we'll say guard let URL equal URL. And then this will be a string. And then we'll pass in endpoint and then use resource. Else, let's just throw some type of error. And we did this a bunch, so I'm going to kind of run through this pretty fast. So I'll just say throw API service error dot invalid response. And it's going to be pretty similar to what we have here. So you could really just copy this to what we did earlier in the code. Paste that here. And then instead of returning comment or decoding it as a comment, let's decode it as a to-do. And then same thing here. We'll decode that as a to-dos. And just like that, based on just using some of the functions, some of the code from our previous functions, we can just finish up this API pretty fast. So a better way would really just be to just use generics. But anyways, I think it's good. Like you can, once you do it a couple of times, you really help you to grasp it. So what we're going to do now is jump back to our user detail view. Now that we have the API set up so we can get some data, we're going to test it out. So in user detail view, this is basically what we want our to-do view to be. So what I want to do is I am going to pretty much cut this for now. And I'm going to create a new file folder and then have this be, and just call that to-dos folder. So new folder, to-do. And I'll say to-do create a new SwiftUI view, call it to-do view. And then I'm going to also add a new Swift file, and we're going to call this to-do view model. Nice. And let's just replace this with a quick VStack, and let's create a quick class and make it called to-do view model, make it an observable object. Nice. And then we are going to need it to have a service so that we can actually make API calls. So we say API services. And we're going to make an initializer for it, but we're not going to make it default because we want to pass the API service from our parent view. So I'm running through it because, as I said, we did it in the previous streams a bunch of time. So inside to-do view, now we're going to introduce our view model that we just created to it. So this is state object for view model to-do view model. All right. And then, okay, we have to update the preview too. And it's going to require a service, but whatever, we could just do this. And now let's jump back to our user detail view just so we can use our new view here and get rid of this error. To do a view, it requires a view model. I could have just passed it our view model. It's all right. Let's make a new one. So we'll say to do view model service, and then we'll pass in our view models service. All right. So pass in our to do view model service, and now when we go to do view, but now we have access to our service and our view model. So let's run this just to make sure that this is at least working as expected. Still, like, we're not seeing any errors. Maybe we missed somewhere in a preview or something like that. So click on that. We have a to-do section, still see the basic to-do. So what we're going to do now is actually add, so this is fine. We're just making sure we don't see any issues, no crashes or anything like that. So what we're going to do now is actually add the function to actually make the get to-dos to our to-do view model. So we'll say func fetch to-dos. And as we saw mad times, we have to make this asynchronous because our service function is calling an asynchronous function. Wrap it in a do catch because it can also, we made it that it can also fail. And now we will say let to-dos equal try because this can fail, and await because it's going to be an asynchronous call. And then we'll do fetch to-dos by user ID, passing in comments by, or no, not that, to-dos, which requires a user ID. So right now we don't have access to that user ID, but we can just update our parameter, our initializer, to make it that we need that. So we say let user ID string, and then I want to put this at the front. I was going to put it at the back, but I'm just like now. So user ID string back there, and then we'll say self.userid equal user ID. And we'll put this here and say we're going to use that user ID. But now we have to update our initializer where this was created, which is in user detail view. So this is going to complain in a second. I will just update that. And now we can say view model dot user and then user ID. Only thing is that this is an integer, so let's just make this a string. All right. So now, like we were trying to do, if we jump back to do previews, previews. So to do view, we need to update it. So let's add that. Now let's jump back to our to do view model. And what we want to do now is do print. I'll say error for the catch block, and we're gonna do a dump for the to do. And I'm doing dump instead of print because like dump shows whatever you're trying to look at in the console in a much more readable way versus print that just kind of spits it at you. And I know this function is going to need a main actor just to make sure that we update the changes on the main thread. So right now we're not calling this function anywhere. So final thing for us to test that it's working is we're going to add a task here. And we're going to say to our view, to our to-do view, I'm going to say await view model that fetch to-dos. Now we can finally test it. So we'll minimize this, run this again. And now when we go, do we set breakpoints? Let's just make sure. To do view model, yeah, we set breakpoints. So let's click on our user. And when we go to the to-do section, our API will fire. And the good thing is the fact that you got to this point means one, this was decoded. And if we look in this point here, we can see that we had 20 values. And if I should just step over now, you'll see that dump pretty much prints it, the data that we have. And you see the format is much more easier to read. So let's get rid of this. So now we know this is working. Get rid of the breakpoints too. And we can get rid of this and we can stop this and then maximize. So we want to use this to-dos array in our view. So what we want to do is add a publish variable. And if you're not familiar with publish variables provide a way where any changes that happen to a property that you mark with it, so in this case, our to-dos array, what will happen is any changes that might happen to it, and if you're using it in a SwiftUI view, and any changes that happen to it, say in your some logic, it will cause a SwiftUI view to update and show that update in the view right away. So basically, if you want to make sure that whenever you change some text or an array, it updates the view right away, make sure you mark it with a publish decorator inside your view model. So instead of creating a new variable here, let's just use one we have up here. And then we are going to jump to our to-do view again. And let's get rid of this text here. And we're going to actually just use list. And we're going to iterate over each of our to-dos. And say to do in, and then let's just say vstack. And I honestly don't remember exactly what the to do response looks like. So let's just take another look at this. I'm actually going to copy it for a second. And I'm going to paste this here for now. So it's basically a title, and we have some type of status of whether it's completed or not. All right, cool. All right, so we'll have, say, we could have something like a H stack. Oh, we don't even need a V stack at all. Let's just do H stack. And then we'll have text. And text will be to do that title. I'll have a spacer and a button here. And this button let's use a label. And then, why is it complaining? Oh, I think it wants me to fill this out. All right, so for the action, let's not worry about that for now. But for the button, let's make it an image. And we're going to use an image that Apple has provided us. So let's use system name, image system name, and let's just pick circle for now. If you're not familiar with image system name, it's a way how you can use predefined images that Apple has created just by calling their name. If you want to get more of them, just click on SF symbol, download SF symbols, You can just Google it and find it, and it gives you access to a lot of images. So all of these, and you just have to copy the name of them and just use them inside a SwiftUI image view, as long as it's using the system name property. Anyways, so yeah, so next thing, we're gonna make this resizable. And then we're gonna say frame width height. And we're gonna make this, say, just make it 30 for now. Okay. I'm kinda good with this, so I don't really need this anymore. And now for each of these, let's run this just to see what this looks like. If we go to user details screen, and then we click on to-dos, okay. So this is what it looks like. Not horrible. Yeah, not bad. So one thing I want to do though, is I want to make it that whenever we click on these, we can actually see at least the color change, the image change, but not the color. So how we can do this is, let's minimize that. So the to-do model has a dot completed property. So this property right here. So it has that. So if we toggle that, then we could show the image based on the completed property. So let's do something like, if to do that complete is completed, then let's get rid of this. Then we could show a circle.fill, otherwise show a circle. Were any of his stuff filled? Let's see. Okay, so some of them are filled. Nice. So last thing we want to do kind of is see if, well, not last thing, we're going to do a couple more things, but what we want to do is see if we can, when we press it, if we can make it toggle. So to do that, let's see what we could do. So inside our, let's stop this for now. And first thing, let's see if we can just, so we have the basic view that we want. So let's see if we can, like we did before, add this inside a sub view, like it creates its own view. So we'll open up folder, and then in to-do view, we're gonna add a new folder. Let's call this to-do row view. And then we're gonna create that. So we're gonna create a SwiftUI view. It's gonna be to-do row view. It's gonna be to-do row view here. And then I'll just paste what we had earlier. And then of course it's gonna complain because it doesn't know what to do is. So I'll say to do. This is gonna be complaining. I kind of want to ignore it, but I'm just like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. So I'll say one, breathe, and then let's make this true. Nice. All right, so now back in our to-do view, our regular view that we see, we're gonna add back to-do row view instead of just having that data, just that view components, just multiple view components just out there. And we just pass in our to-do. So let's just run this one more time just to make sure it's working with the new row view that we added. And go to to-dos, and yeah, we still see it. So let's work on now handling for clicking and then basically toggling whether the task is completed or not. So how we can do this is, let's get rid of this and let's maximize. And what we're going to do now is go to our to-do row view, and inside our button, so basically we want to know whenever this button is clicked. So inside our button, basically we want to toggle to-do that completed, but we can't do this. If we try to do this, it's going to complain to you that it's not mutable. You see, can't use mutating member on a mutating on a value computed. So that's not how we're going to do this. What we're going to do instead is push back the logic from our to-do row view. We're going to push it back to our to-do view, and then we're going to make it that our view model, which is to-do view model, toggle update the value of the is completed from our view model. So I know it sounds crazy, but let's see if we can make it work. So we'll say let button tapped, and we'll have it do this and return void. Really what we're going to make it do is return the to do. Let's just make it return a string. That way we'll just send back the ID for that. And then inside here, we're just going to say button tapped, and we're going to pass in the to-do's ID. Why are these all integers? So to-do.id. And now what's going to happen is when we go back to our user detail view? Yeah, our user detail view. Oh, no, not user detail view, our to-do view. To-do row view is going to complain and say it needs a closure. So because it's the last one added, like the last closure, closure is the last property in the initializer, we can just do it like this and just make it like a trailing closer. And now remember, it's returning our to-do ID, which is now a string. Perfect. And where we want to make that, so now we know which, let's call it selected to-do ID. That way it's, remember. So this is the to-do that was selected and we got the ID, like we want to toggle its completion status, whether it's completed or not. So visually, basically it's a to-do that we get when, jump back here, when this is pressed. So if we press this one, we'd get the ID for this one. If you press this one, we'd get the ID for that one. So to handle this, we're inside our to-do view model. So this selected ID will give us that value. So to do that, we're going to go inside our to-do view model and we're going to add a new function. And basically this is going to be the handle completion update, handle status update, handle to-do update. So basically whenever the button is pressed, we're going to handle that. So we're going to take in that to-do ID, make it a string. So, and what let's see if we just grab that from now. So it'll be like view model, jump back to our to-do view and be like view model, and then handle, and then just pass in selected to-do ID, jumping back, and then we will say, basically whenever we get that ID, we want to say like if let index, we want to get the index for where that to-do is, and then see if we can change it based on the array. So that if let index equal to-dos dot index, our first index, is there first index? Yeah. First index where $0 that I gotta make this a string. One sec. So string $0 that ID is equal to to-do ID. I might as well not have changed it and just sent over integer. And now that we have the index for which ID, which to-do task was tapped, we can just say to-dos use this index now that we know which one. And then that completed, we're just going to say toggle. This is because, let's jump here. I think it's because this is a let, so let's just change this to a var. And that should now be fine. Let's just wait for the view to update. It's run. Okay, you see the error disappeared. Nice. So we need to update the trailing now for our previews again. Hold on. I'll just do the same thing we did before. Only thing, I don't care about like the ID that we get from here, so I'll just do underscore and then do in. Okay. Now, what we have is, if we jump back to our view model, you'll see that what's going to happen is whenever we get that ID, we get the index, we can now toggle it. So let's run it and see if this is working as expected. So go here, tap on that, tap on our to do. And now let's tap this one and we see it does toggle. So perfect. So that's working how we pretty much expected it to work. Nice. Nice. So, let's see. Let me go. Let me just minimize this real quick. And now we can go to our view model. And let's see if we can, and we're just going to add in a quick error handling for this. It's going to be the same procedure that we did for the previous streams. So I'm just going to do this really quick. So we need a way how to track if an error should show. So we say var show error alert. And we're going to make this a boolean. Set this to false initially. Add publish. I'm going to say var. And then we're going to say error message. And now inside our catch block, which is where the error would occur, we're going to say if let custom error, which is we're converting the error that we received in the catch block, which is not the one I create. It's just one error that you get within our catch box to our custom error. And then we'll say API service error. And then in here, we're just going to say error message equal custom error. And we'll just make it equal to error message here. Now, this is where after we've set this, I'm going to toggle the show error alert and just set this to toggle. And let's just add the else. More likely we won't hit this case, but let's just say error message is going to just be equal to the error that we're just getting from Apple system. Now, to make this work, we have to actually also update our view. So inside our to-do view, what I'm going to add is an alert modifier. And remember, alert is just a way how you can add. An alert is just, a modifier is just a way how you can add additional features to your view. So this time I want to add an alert ability or alert feature. So I'll go down to alert that is presented. And I'll say $view model that show error alert. Do that, and I'll say alert. I'll pick the first one, and then for text, let's just pass this in. Now there's a bunch of different ways where you can show alerts in SwiftUI, which is perfect, but I'm just gonna, this is like the super fastest and simplest one. So I'll say text, and I'll say view model, that error message. And now if we should have an error that occurs, pretty much inside our catch block, we would have set the error message that we want to show and then just toggled show error alert. So let's see if we can kind of force this to happen. So let's jump to services, and then we're gonna actually endpoints, and then we're gonna make it that we're just gonna mess up this URL. Let's just get rid of some stuff. Doesn't really matter, just mess it up. And then we're gonna run. And when I go to users and I tap on someone, when I click on the to-dos, I should see an error alert. And you see it says something went wrong, unsupported URL. So that's the error alert that we're kind of expecting. So I can just close that. But one thing to note is that if there are no to-dos, then we just see this basic really blank screen, not the best experience. So what we can do instead is add a content unavailable view. That's just to let the user know that you don't have any comments or something. So we're gonna leave the issue with the API for now. Actually, yeah, let's put it back. Let's just fix it. There is another way how we could set the comments the to-dos to empty. So let's jump back to our to-do view, and I'll maximize this. And then I'm gonna say it's either to-do view. Let's minimize this stuff right here too. Inside our to-do view, I'm gonna say if view model that to-dos is not empty, then I'm gonna show the stuff that we have here at the top, the list pretty much. Else, I'm gonna show, like I mentioned, a content unavailable view. And for this one, I'm going to use title, image, or system image and description. And for the title, all I'm gonna say is basically no to-dos added. And I'm gonna figure out what image to put there for in a second. And then for the description, I'm just gonna say add some to-dos to build up your list. All right, and now we can give it that image too. For now, just to show you, I'm just gonna put person. Or I wonder if they have book. Let's try book. And I'm gonna make it that this just always happens. All right, so let's go to to-do view model, and then I could just comment this portion out. That way, to-dos view is pretty much always to-dos array is always empty, since we're never updating it. We're never calling the API to read inside our thing to really update it. So if we go to users, and then we go to user, and then we go to the to-do section, we see this new view where it says no to-dos added. Add some to-dos. So this is like a better experience versus just having a blank white screen. Yeah. So let's uncomment that, and let's just run the app again so we can see everything so far in conclusion. And if we go to users, we can click on a user, click about, to-dos, we can toggle. Yeah, so this is pretty much working as expected. We did use SwiftUI along with MVVM to complete this, and we're able to toggle the data, fetch the data, and using Swift concurrency. So we're gonna pause the stream right here. If you did like this, definitely feel free to subscribe and like the video, and yeah, stay tuned. We'll be dropping way more streams, so hope you enjoy. Yeah.